to the program.
Yeah, thank you very much.
It's been a while since we saw you.
Yeah.
What have you been doing?
On the campaign trail.
How's it going?
Pretty much good. So we'd say, alhamdulillah, we're getting there.
I see. So your vice presidential candidate or your running mate has been touring some markets in Accra. What's she doing? What's the strategy? What's he seeking to achieve with this tour?
Well, you could liken it to a door-to-door campaign where she's getting the real feel and touch of the markets. So today she's made or visited two significant markets or big markets in Accra, which is the Malanata market, the Kaneshi market, and crowned it all at the Oddo constituency, which houses the Makola market. So it's about explaining key policies that are integral to the development in progress, and for that matter, policies that can lift the average Ghanaian and market woman from the economic doldrums that we've been subjected to in the last couple of months.
Policies like what?
I mean,
policies like what?
Women Development Bank. The 24-hour development.
So what would the Women Development Bank, for example, do? If I'm a woman, the bank is set up, I walk in and they give me a loan without asking the questions which prevent women or which the questions that disadvantage women and other people from getting the loans. This bank will not do those checks before giving out the loans?
Well, when you say checks, I mean, if you put it that way, that's really going to be very plain. But you look at it, this has been thought through carefully. All around the world, the birth of microfinance was a feminine thing. It sought to empower women, because what you realize is that women are often breadwinners and they play multiple roles. A man could be an income earner and bring nothing home, but when a woman is an income earner, on average, it tends to trickle down. So empowering them is key, and economic empowerment is fundamental to this. And there are several barriers that inhibit women from actually accessing finance. And you could see a classic case of a women bank in countries such as Bangladesh and all of that ought to bring in financial inclusion. And these are all developing country perspectives. So let's say a Women Development Bank exists. It has a board that is chaired by women. And as you would know, again, research has it that when women sit on corporate boards, they are more prudent. They have understanding.
They're more efficient,
and they have a real feel of the understanding, because this is all a woman affair. They know what they go through because they best know it, not a man. So if it has a board that encompasses all women, chaired by a woman, and a CEO a woman, so they really understand the real woman problem and what they can turn around. Give a woman 2,000 Ghana cedis and see what she can do with it in 6 months. So this bank is aimed at actually breaking those barriers, flattening them, and allowing access, and also providing and promoting financial inclusion. Right? So this is what it aimed to do. And by doing this, you would see that it's going to help put a lot of kids in school. It's going to help sustainability within families. So, and this cuts across board, even nutrition within families, increase when you have women within the financial inclusion bracket.
How different would this be from Maslow? I mean, Maslow was set up for a similar reason. And of course, Maslow is not only for women, and so it also means that the women bank, if I'm a man, I cannot access anything there.
No, it's solely for women.
Solely for women.
Yes.
So Maslow,
and what it tells you,
Maslow has a similar objective.
Yes.
And there's Maslow. So why won't you improve Maslow rather than going to set up a new bank?
As you'd say, as I said, there are several inhibitions when it comes to women accessing finance. Right? We have traditional banks. Maslow can still exist alongside that. You look
that'll be duplication.
No, it's not a duplication. You look at the population pool. Women are more than men, as you'd see. So if you're duplicating anything that should still give women more access and an upper hand, then it's a good thing to go for. It's never a duplication. But what this is saying is that the tick box exercises that you go through to access a loan facility which has collateral implications and all of that are not going to exist when it comes to Women Development Bank. Because you also realize that statistics and evidence of research would also tell you that women are good at repaying loans than even men. So trying to have this exclusive bank for women in and of itself, it's understanding that women really need access and knowing the women problem and allowing women to take that charge in empowering themselves.
So see, the problem with things like this, like Maslow, for example, I mean, Maslow has said the problem they've had is repayment.
Yes.
So because it's made to assume a political face, people take loans, they don't come back to pay because they feel that they've worked for a certain party, the parties want power, so this is their reward. How sure are we that this Women Development Bank will not suffer the same fate?
When you are implementing social interventions and policies, even the formation of it and the nomenclature actually gives it or embodies how it ought to be approached. This comes with the word bank, and it tells you serious business. It comes with the nature, or it's clad already as a bank. So there's a difference between what Maslock is, or what a constituency party chair or someone would say somewhere and call to say, okay, can you get this person a motorbike, whatsoever. But this is something that gives needs assessment to women who need it, right? It allows to say, okay, well, how much payment period do you think you can have as far as this is concerned? What is the average period, or what kind of business are you going into, right? How much of interest could you pay on this? So they are the modalities that ought to be looked at to actually have a robust...
There'll be no collateral. I mean, people, you just assess them a certain way, you give them the loans.
Yes.
And so my
and
issue
even
is...
not loans also. What you're failing to realize
Technical support.
Technical support.
But loans is what makes the thing very attractive.
Well,
right?
access to finance.
Yes, access to finance.
Let's not make it loans.
Access to finance. People come for the money and they are not paying. There's no collateral for you to fall on.
Yep.
How are you going to recover your money? You take them to court? How are you going to do it?
Yeah, but no, the point is when you
do it the way the banks are doing it, because the banks with all these measures, they have high NPLs.
No, but you're already sounding draconian. Even with traditional banks, when certain businesses of a certain pedigree owe them, they can even take them to courts.
But they have that tool available. And we see them in courts every day.
Yes, but this is a tool that is social in nature. And mind you, we just passed the affirmative action bill, right? So this goes to confirm the NDC's readiness in actually embracing the affirmative action bill, in putting it in action, and allowing it to be practicalized and have impact on the female population of this country, which is the largest, right? And when that happens, it trickles down to kids and family well-being and the improvement of our social cohorts as far as families are concerned. This even has longevity issues, because families are going to be, the well-being of families would improve. So what is actually going to happen is the draconian nature of traditional banks and the inhibitions are going to be removed.
You talked about the 24-hour economy as well, that she's explaining to the people, or telling the people about the 24-hour economy to increase job opportunities, etc. The 24-hour economy has been described. Various explanations have been given to it. The latest one we heard from the launch of your manifesto, youth manifesto, is a 133, one job for 3 people, 3 different shifts. What is going to be government's investment or contribution to this particular policy?
Is it when we talk about the 24-hour economy, and I see a lot of people trying to poo-poo it, and I heard Dr. Baumia talking about chop bars operating 24/7. And when we start having that conversation, we miss the plot as far as its impact.
But to be fair, if chop bars are operating 24 hours, it's part of the 24-hour economy, because there is demand for it.
Of course, but
so
that was said in a derogatory manner, not really within the policy principle.
He was making was that it's nothing new, because when you go to the bus stop in a very busy place where the place runs 24 hours already, people will be hungry, so they will eat. So there is demand for it.
No. When you have an informal existence of something, doesn't mean it exists. Right? So here's what we say. There's a demand side to 24-hour economy, and there is an incentive side to it. And this is where we come to what you're trying to say. So by the demand side, there are certain pools of the economy that are calling for the 24-hour economy. And the incentive side is that there are already existing pockets of initiatives or private initiatives that tend to mimic a 24-hour economy. What can government do to incentivize these, these pockets of existence? For instance, you could drive up to Oxford Street, there's a 24-hour pharmacy. But what support is there to encourage a lot more pharmacies to run 24 hours?
So if I have a pharmacy located in an area where there are no people, or there are not a lot of people,
that is why I said
I cannot run.
But that's why I said incentive and demand, right? Airport Shell may run 24 hours,
yes,
right?
Because there's demand.
There's demand for it, and where it's located.
So any good business will see the opportunity.
No, but the point is, if the government initiates, say, okay, past midnight, we recalibrate the pumps, right? Anything that comes out of the pump to a tank attracts a 0.5% off tax if you operate past midnight.
So more people.
So you'd have more fuel stations. No, I'm not saying more people, depending on strategic locations, or people even begin to strategically locate their fuel stations.
People wake up and go buy fuel at that time.
No, why would you want to? No,
because of the incentive.
No, do you wake up to go to Airport Shell to buy fuel?
No, because
of the incentive.
If I'm passing by Airport Shell, I need fuel.
Yes, you do.
No matter the time, I'll go get fuel.
Yes. And I drive there occasionally because if I feel that it's past midnight and still need fuel in town, I would go there. So if there are a lot more of those stations around town, then what it means is that we are incentivizing that to operate. Now, in terms of demand side, I mean, when we talk about the 24-hour economy, we are talking about a 3-shift economy. You may say hotels or hospitality, but there's a vast difference between a night economy and a 24-hour economy. So when we're talking about night economy, we're talking entertainment and hospitality. But here in Accra, except weekends or by weekends, you go into, let's say, a hotel. By 10 p.m., the restaurant is shut. You only have a skeletal staff probably running concierge services. So how do you incentivize this hotel to be functional and effective within the 24-hour economy? Hospitality and entertainment. By 11 p.m., bars, restaurants, and the likes of that are shut as well, except maybe when you have, except when you go to other places where you can have like midnight operations and the likes of that. So again, how do we incentivize this entertainment and hospitality industry to also run that 20? But within that, we say it's a 3-shift economy. Right. And to actually have it practicalized, you may have to revise labor laws, right, to do all of these things. So which is why I will tell you that if you say a chop bar probably or a lorry station runs 24/7 means it's running a 24-hour economy. No. Right. And by the 3-shift economy, we are talking about personnel changing hands, having some rest. Imagine that, okay, you have a wife, right, who probably works in a supermarket, sells groceries. You can even arrange your family time because you are within a shift system where you can have work-life balance. Instead of maybe going to a crèche when you don't need to put your son or daughter in a crèche to pay so much money. When dad is at home, mom is at work because they are running through a shift system. You drive through a pothole at night within the construction side of things. You wake up in the morning because workers are working throughout the night, filling up this. You drive on a posh or renovated road. So
when you
that
talk
is
about
a 24-hour economy in action.
So 24. But when you talk about 24-hour economy, a lot of the people think about industry. So you.
No, I think that we are picturing it in a very monstrous style that we ourselves don't really have a full appreciation of.
So industry, that's where the chunk of the jobs perhaps will be.
But services even can still have 24 hours. I mean, passports and all, what have you?
But passports, I mean, we talk about backlog, for example. The minister said that he was going to bring heavy-duty machines that could clear about 20,000 passports in a day.
That is the minister saying, but that doesn't mean that.
So it means that technology exists, right? It exists. You can clear.
Well, but in other jurisdiction, we still pay express for passports.
So you can get those things done. So when the backlog is cleared, what then happens to the 24-hour?
No, but what I'm saying is that in other jurisdictions that are even more advanced than us, we still pay extra to have an express service.
That's fair.
So that existence of the machine or not is neither here nor there.
So
invariably, that is what I'm saying.
If I can do something between 8 and 5 and be efficient, backlog is cleared.
Yes.
I can do something between 8 and 5 and be efficient.
Yes.
I will stay on, or I'll say we'll stay on
for
the next day because it's a 24-hour
That is why I told you demand side and incentive side. It's not a carte blanche. It's not like we're going to say lock, stock and barrel everywhere must be 24 hours. No. We have to look at the key sectors of the economy that need it. Right? Lorries running up and down the country, bringing receipts into supermarkets and the likes of that. We are a growing economy.
So is there
call centers operating?
Is there an idea about how many jobs, for example?
I mean, do you have an idea? Do you have an idea how much India earn just on call center services? And that runs 24 hours services. And European countries or developed nations are shipping
outsource their call
centers to these places. So imagine. So how is that not practical within a 24-hour or a 3-shift economy?
So Prof Naana Opoku Agyemang is explaining all of this to people at the lorries, at the markets and lorry stations. What's been the response like? What do the people tell her?
Very positive. If you want, I could play a video to you of a lady who got so excited and even explained it to me in Fanti of how she appreciates it. So when people pretend
how she appreciates what the
24-hour economy and what and how it's going to create jobs for her and her contemporaries.
So what else has she been telling the people in the markets and the lorry stations she's been visiting?
No, well, it's all about development. It's all about empowerment. Women. She exemplifies herself to say that I'm a woman is the belief in women empowerment that John Dramani Mahama made me running mate. And that's a reflection. It's an inspiration to our daughters. Right. So there's a lot more to be done. You look at economic woes that we are going through. The haircuts. She speaks about it in very nice and decent manner. Because the point is, back in the day, Selorm, pension pots were the safest. Right? Domestic debt exchange program, we had to extend our arms to pension pots. Treasury bills were something parents invested in. Even when we were in secondary school, business students would want to, buy treasury bills as clubs and all of that.
Treasury bills are still safe. I mean,
they're not as safe as they used to be. When I say people are shying away from them because they are not as safe as they used to be. But back in the day, these are things people went to straight away. Pension funds are blue chip investments. Nobody touched them globally. Anywhere in the world would anyone touch pension pots or pension bonds. Today, what has happened? Thanks to what? Domestic debt exchange program. Right? Which is as a result of a reckless borrowing spree by a finance minister who has gone to the international bond market, borrowed at very astronomical rates with nothing to show for it in terms of return on investments. And here we are today, a central bank, we have a cloud of debt hanging over us as a country, a central bank posting losses, just prioritizing the building of a headquarters. Among all of these things, corrupt issues,
you
the SMLs,
yes,
among other issues.
You launched a youth manifesto recently, and you want to create a dedicated ministry for youth development.
Yes.
I mean, what's wrong with the current system, youth and sports? It's young people who engage in sports. So putting youth and sports together makes sense. Why do you want to make it youth, a ministry for youth development? What happens to sports? You move it somewhere else? Education, perhaps?
No, it tells you how we prioritize the youth of this country.
What will be different?
Selorm, I mean, when you say what it tells you priority and focus, right? Hans Rosling will tell you that the world's PIN code is 1114. What it means is that you had a 1 billion population in Europe, you have 1 billion in Africa, and 1 billion in America, and 4 billion in Asia. By 2050, this is going to be 25. What it means is that Africa would have doubled 2 billion. And this population is youthful. You could see birth rates very high. Universities are getting... So it tells you the visionary nature of the NDC and its future-proofing of how it's embracing the youth. So by creating a youth ministry, what it means is that it's going to have a dedicated machine to the growth and development of youth in this country. I mean, look around. International Youth Day. It only took the NDC, right, to launch a rigorous manifesto, crowned it all with a youth town hall at the Bukom Boxing Arena. And you had both flag bearer and running mate standing on their feet, engaged in this process for 12 hours. Because the manifesto launch started in the morning and ended up at Bukom past 10 p.m. to almost midnight. So it tells you the dedication to it. So if we are talking about a youth ministry, it tells you that, okay, well, youth is the engine of the economy, is the engine of any society, is the future of any society. So why don't we create a separate ministry and give it the focus that it deserves, rather than making it an auxiliary to any other ministry?
I see. So we earlier spoke about, I spoke about the free level 100 tuition fee thing with a park and a few others. But you are here, and then you are a younger person. I mean, what's this supposed to do? Improve access. But we've also talked about equity, and we've had issues with the blanket nature that free SHS, for example, is being implemented. So if you have the opportunity to do it again, why do you go for a blanket approach? Everybody gets it free. It's
not a blanket approach.
Every level one person gets it free.
If you look at it from an NDC perspective, even linking it to our position when it came to free SHS, we advocated for a gradualist approach. We said it was going to be gradual.
So is that what you're going to do?
This is when I say gradual, I'm coming to it. You could have just said free tertiary education for all. But what did we say? For level 100 and its academic fees. What happens, Selorm? If you look at it in terms of interventions, you just don't run amok, right, on a blanket basis, implement a policy. So what is going to happen is that, okay, you said it's for first year students. That does not mean the policy would stay at that. After a year, 2 or so, it gets reviewed. What are the impacts? What is the improvement in terms of access? What are female ratios? Right? What is the quality that we are getting? Can we add level 200s? Can we add level 300s? And that is the gradualist nature of implementing the policy.
Even level 100
but I'm coming. Level 100 itself. But you know,
how are we funding this?
There's evidence. I'll come to that. There's evidence out there in countries like Ecuador and Chile that has actually implemented it, improved access, bridge the gap, and increase access to even female having university education. imagine this, right? You were to go to uni and your parents could only afford your first year. Would they say sit home, not go? They would say go, let's see what we could do to get that. By paying that first year fee, it gives parents some respite, a breathing space and a buffer to actually plan on paying a second or third. So this is how social interventions happen. And which is why it's just limited to first year for now.
We are running a tight economy now.
Yes.
I mean, where are we going to find the money? Or there's no clear funding source for this.
I mean,
how are we going to fund this?
No, when you say there's no clear source, what do you say?
No, how are we going to fund this? I mean, the issue about
how are we funding free SHS?
We fund it from
various
sources.
But
we say that free SHS alone is taking a chunk of the education budget.
Yes.
And here we are going to add something else. How are we going to fund it? We should be clear. For example, we are told that revenue from the oil resource is being used for the free SHS budget reallocations made, etc., etc. We are not clear.
No, when a government when a government comes into office, it has a bouquet of funding sources that it can tap into. Education budget alone, right? It's massive enough to look into to say, okay, what could we take to A, B, C, and D to get this through? I mean, all these astrotests we're having around town, how are they being funded?
There are philanthropists funding them. Churches are building them.
No, I'm not talking about those from. I'm not talking. You know what I'm talking about in terms of astrotests that are being built by government agencies. Right. So I mean, but you look at it, it's just a minute percentage of the current component funding of the free SHS. So why is it not doable? If free SHS is doable.
But if I can pay, why do you want to give it to me for free?
Well, but there's going to be needs assessments also.
Yeah, but you're saying for everybody. That's what we get.
If you can pay, right? If you can pay, what it means is that you carry on through with your second, third, and fourth years. But those parents that need that respite would have time to plan and save up for it. So it tells you that it's not even a discriminatory policy. Which is why I tell you, it's get piloted for a year. It could be tweaked to say, okay, well, majority of people are able to pay. Why don't we have a needs assessment? But as it stands now, we are not discriminatory about it. It's open to all.
Very well. Professor Khalid Sharif of the Professor Naana Opoku Agyemang's team, touring the markets and interacting with market women. He's also a member of the NDC Finance and Economics team.